Mortain, Normandy, France, August 7, 1944, 05:45 hours. Hauptmann Ernst Dietrich crouches beside his disabled Panther tank in the pre-dawn darkness outside Mortain, watching his panzergrenadier platoon prepare defensive positions along the hedgerow-lined road, absolutely confident that his veteran infantry, armed with their reliable Karabiner 98K bolt-action rifles, will easily repel any American infantry probe while his tank crews attempt emergency repairs to restore mobility to the vehicles damaged during yesterday's fighting. Dietrich, a decorated officer who survived 3 years on the Eastern Front before transfer to France, knows that infantry combat remains fundamentally a contest of marksmanship and fire discipline, where well-trained soldiers with accurate rifles defeat poorly trained opponents through superior shooting, and his panzer grenadiers represent some of the Wehrmacht's finest infantry, men who can deliver aimed fire at 400 meters and maintain disciplined volleys that suppress enemy advances. What Hauptmann Dietrich cannot possibly know, what no German infantry officer schooled in traditional rifle tactics could anticipate, is that the American infantry company approaching his position carries M1 Garand semi-automatic rifles capable of firing 8 aimed shots as rapidly as a soldier can pull the trigger, and that within the next 2 hours, his entire platoon of 38 men will be killed, wounded, or forced to surrender after discovering that American riflemen can deliver more firepower per minute than entire German squads, that the distinctive metallic ping of ejecting M1 clips will become the last sound many of his soldiers hear, and that the fundamental mathematics of infantry combat have changed in ways that rendered German tactical doctrine obsolete when facing opponents who can fire 40 to 50 aimed shots per minute compared to the 15 shots per minute German doctrine considers maximum sustainable rate for bolt-action rifles. The German confidence in traditional bolt-action rifle infantry tactics rests on centuries of military experience, validating the effectiveness of disciplined, aimed fire delivered by well-trained soldiers. The Karabiner 98K, standard German infantry rifle since 1935, represents the culmination of bolt-action rifle development. A reliable, accurate weapon capable of effective fire to 500 meters, fed by a 5-round internal magazine that experienced soldiers can reload in approximately 4 seconds. German infantry doctrine, refined through the Great War and updated based on Spanish Civil War experience, emphasizes fire discipline and marksmanship, teaching soldiers to deliver carefully aimed shots rather than wasting ammunition on unaimed rapid fire. The typical German rifleman, having completed extensive training, including hundreds of rounds fired in practice, can deliver approximately 12 to 15 aimed shots per minute under combat conditions, a rate German doctrine considers optimal for balancing ammunition conservation with suppressive effect. The tactical doctrine governing American infantry employment reflects understanding that superior firepower allows smaller units to achieve effects requiring larger German formations. U.S. Army field manuals emphasize aggressive use of the M1's semi-automatic capability to gain and maintain fire superiority, teaching soldiers to deliver rapid, aimed fire that suppresses enemy positions while maneuver elements advance. The doctrine explicitly rejects the ammunition conservation concerns that limit German fire rates, recognizing that American industrial capacity provides essentially unlimited ammunition, while trained riflemen remain the limiting factor. Captain James Mitchell, commanding Company E, briefs his platoon leaders that the Garand gives every rifleman firepower that used to require entire squads. Use that advantage aggressively. When you make contact, put so much lead downrange that the Germans can't return effective fire. The August 7th engagement develops when Company E, advancing to secure crossroads south of Mortain as part of the American counterattack against the German Operation Lidick offensive, encounters Hauptmann Dietrich's defensive position at approximately 06:15 hours.
The initial contact occurs when Harrison's squad, moving along a sunken lane bordered by thick hedgerows, receives fire from German positions approximately 150 meters ahead. The characteristic crack of Kar-98K rifles and the heavier reports of MG-42 machine guns announcing that the Americans have stumbled into prepared defenses. Harrison, following his training, immediately orders his squad to take cover and return fire, the 12 M1 Garands opening up with a volume of fire that stuns the German defenders. Obergefreiter Müller, commanding the forward German position, experiences the first shock of facing M1-equipped infantry when what he expects to be sporadic return fire from Americans seeking cover instead becomes a continuous roar of semi-automatic fire that sends dozens of .30-06 rounds cracking past his position within seconds. Müller's tactical training tells him that infantry under fire should be taking cover and attempting to identify targets for careful aimed shots. But the American fire continues unabated, the volume suggesting an entire German platoon is engaging when Müller knows only a single American squad is present. The hedgerow concealing Müller's position disintegrates under the impact of multiple bullets, branches and leaves shredded by the concentrated fire, fragments stinging Müller's face as he presses himself into the earth and realizes that returning fire would expose him to what sounds like machine gun fire, but is actually individual American riflemen shooting as rapidly as they can pull triggers. Staff Sergeant Harrison, observing the effect of his squad's initial volley, recognizes that the German position is temporarily suppressed by the sheer volume of fire his 12 Garands are delivering. Following doctrine that emphasizes using fire superiority to enable maneuver, Harrison directs half his squad to continue firing, while he leads the other 6 men in a flanking movement along the hedgerow to positions where they can engage the German strongpoint from the side. This fire and maneuver tactic, fundamental to American infantry operations, relies completely on the M1's ability to deliver suppressive fire that pins defenders while maneuver elements advance, a tactic impossible with bolt-action rifles that cannot sustain sufficient fire volume to reliably suppress enemy positions. The flanking movement succeeds because Müller's squad, pinned by continuous fire from 6 M1 Garands delivering approximately 240 aimed shots per minute, cannot raise their heads to observe or engage the Americans maneuvering against their flank. Müller, a veteran of dozens of infantry engagements on the Eastern Front, has never experienced suppressive fire of this intensity from rifle-armed infantry. Soviet infantry, with bolt-action Mosin-Nagant rifles, could deliver harassing fire, but rarely achieved the volume necessary to prevent German soldiers from returning accurate fire. The Americans, by contrast, maintain such continuous fire that attempting to return fire means certain death or wounding. Müller watches one of his soldiers raise his head to aim his Kar-98K and immediately take a .30-06 round through the helmet, the soldier dead before his body settles into the fighting position. Harrison's flanking element, reaching a position offering enfilade fire into the German defensive line, opens fire with devastating effect. The 6 M1 Garands, engaging German soldiers exposed in profile at 100 meters, deliver approximately 30 rounds in the first 5 seconds, an instant, overwhelming volume of fire that kills or wounds 4 German soldiers before the survivors can react. Private First Class Robert Johnson, Harrison's best shot, systematically engages visible Germans with rapid semi-automatic fire, his M1 allowing him to fire, observe impact, correct aim, and fire again in seconds, rather than the 15 to 20 seconds required for aimed bolt-action shooting. Johnson drops 3 German soldiers in 8 seconds, each one attempting to turn toward the American fire and dying with Kar-98K rifles not yet aimed toward the threat. Hauptmann Dietrich, observing from his command position 200 meters behind the forward defensive line, hears the intensity of American rifle fire and initially assumes his forward squads are engaging American automatic weapons. The rate of fire seems impossible for individual rifles. When runners report that American infantry armed with semi-automatic rifles are overwhelming German positions through sheer firepower volume, Dietrich experiences the cognitive dissonance of information contradicting everything his training tells him about infantry combat. Semi-automatic rifles should suffer from rapid barrel heating, ammunition exhaustion, and loss of accuracy, but the reports describe sustained, accurate fire that maintains intensity far longer than any rifle Dietrich has encountered can sustain. The tactical collapse of Mueller's forward position occurs within 3 minutes of initial contact. The combination of frontal suppression and flanking fire, killing 8 German soldiers, wounding 6 more, and forcing the survivors to abandon their positions and retreat toward the secondary defensive line. Mueller, among the wounded with a .30-06 round through his left shoulder, describes the experience in his casualty report as facing an entire company when intelligence indicated a single squad. The Americans fired continuously without pause, dozens of shots when we could manage only 2 or 3 returns. We could not raise our weapons to aim without being hit immediately. Retreat was the only option to avoid complete destruction. The engagement pattern repeats as Company E systematically reduces each German defensive position through the same fire and maneuver tactics enabled by M1 firepower. 2nd Platoon engages German positions defending the northern approach, their M1 Garands delivering such overwhelming fire that German defenders abandoned positions without attempting sustained resistance. 3rd Platoon, encountering German tank crews attempting to defend their disabled Panthers with personal weapons, discovers that Panzer crewmen armed with MP-40 submachine guns and Kar-98K carbines cannot effectively engage American riflemen who can deliver accurate fire from 200 meters, ranges where German submachine guns are ineffective and carbines are outmatched by the M1's sustained fire capability. The destruction of Dietrich's command post occurs when American riflemen, advancing under cover of their own fire superiority, reach positions overlooking the location where Dietrich coordinates his battered forces. Staff Sergeant Harrison, spotting German officers identifiable by their uniforms and knapboards, directs concentrated fire from his entire squad, 12 M1 Garands focusing on a target area approximately 20 meters square. The volume of fire, exceeding 400 rounds delivered in less than 1 minute, turns the command post into a killing zone where survival is impossible. Dietrich, struck by 3 .30-06 rounds within 2 seconds, dies instantly. His radio operator, attempting to transmit situation reports, takes 2 rounds through the chest. The battalion liaison officer, diving for cover, is hit 4 times before reaching the ground.
By 07:45 hours, less than 90 minutes after initial contact, Company E has destroyed Dietrich's entire defensive position, killing 23 German soldiers, wounding 19, and capturing 16. Casualties representing complete tactical destruction of a force that should have been able to defend against attacking infantry for hours, if not days. The American casualties, 3 killed, 7 wounded, reflect the decisive advantage semi-automatic rifles provide in infantry combat, allowing attackers to suppress defenders while maneuvering rather than becoming pinned by defensive fire as bolt-action armed infantry typically experience. The human dimension of the engagement emerges through accounts from survivors on both sides. Private Heinrich Krause, one of the German soldiers captured after Mueller's position was overrun, describes his experience to American interrogators with evident trauma. "We heard the Americans coming and prepared to engage as doctrine teaches. Aimed fire at identified targets, fire discipline to conserve ammunition, mutual support between positions. Then the American fire began and it never stopped. Dozens of shots, hundreds of shots, continuous fire that hit everything around us. We could not return fire without being killed. We could not retreat without being shot. We waited for the fire to slacken so we could respond, but it never slackened. Then Americans appeared on our flank and killed half my squad in seconds. We surrendered because fighting was suicide." Staff Sergeant Harrison's after-action report provides American perspective with matter-of-fact professionalism. "Made contact with enemy defensive positions at 0615, immediately established fire superiority using squad organic weapons. Suppressive fire prevented effective enemy response while maneuver element flanked position. Engaged enemy from enfilade with concentrated fire, achieving rapid suppression and destruction. Repeated fire and maneuver against subsequent positions with similar results. The M1 rifle's semi-automatic capability proved decisive in achieving fire superiority and enabling aggressive tactics. German resistance collapsed when they could not return effective fire against our volume. The German military's response to encountering M1 Garand-equipped American infantry develops throughout August and September 1944, as reports from multiple sectors describe similar tactical outcomes, American infantry achieving fire superiority that enables aggressive maneuver, German positions suppressed by rifle fire volumes that doctrine says should be impossible, and casualty rates that suggest American infantry possess automatic weapons far beyond their actual organizational strength. The Wehrmacht intelligence staffs receiving these reports from commanders who survived engagements with M1-equipped units struggle initially to reconcile field observations with their understanding of infantry weapons capabilities and tactical principles. Oberst Friedrich Mayes, commanding the 353rd Infantry Division's Operations Section, compiles after-action reports from August engagements into an assessment distributed to German 7th Army headquarters on August 22nd. Mayes's analysis, based on testimony from over 40 officers and NCOs who fought American infantry, concludes that American rifle-armed infantry demonstrates sustained fire rates 3 to 4 times greater than German infantry with equivalent numbers. Individual American soldiers fire semi-automatic rifles, delivering 8 shots without reloading, enabling continuous fire that suppresses German positions and prevents effective return fire. German infantry doctrine, based on bolt-action rifle capabilities, proves inadequate when facing opponents who can deliver 40 to 50 aimed shots per minute per rifleman. Recommend immediate tactical revision and consideration of semi-automatic rifle development for Wehrmacht use. The psychological impact on German infantry of facing M1 firepower manifests in ways that transcend simple tactical disadvantage to affect morale and combat effectiveness at fundamental levels. Gefreiter Paul Richter, recovering from wounds received at Mortain, describes the experience in a letter to his family that German censors flag for its defeatist tone. "We train extensively in marksmanship, learning to deliver accurate aimed fire with our Kar 98K rifles. Then we face Americans who fire continuously without pause, dozens of shots in seconds, and our training means nothing because we cannot raise our heads to aim without being killed. The sound of their rifles, the rapid semi-automatic fire and the metallic ping when their clips eject, has become the sound of death. We know that engaging American riflemen at close range means certain casualties because they can fire 3 or 4 times for every shot we manage. The tactical adaptations German infantry units attempt to implement prove only partially effective because the fundamental problem, American firepower superiority at the individual soldier level, cannot be solved through tactical adjustments alone. German doctrine begins emphasizing increased use of automatic weapons to offset American rifle advantages, concentrating MG-42 machine guns and MP-40 submachine guns to provide suppressive fire that might match M1 volumes. But this approach proves problematic because German squad organization provides only 2 automatic weapons per 10-man squad, one MG-42 and one MP-40, compared to American squads where every rifleman contributes semi-automatic fire equivalent to multiple bolt-action rifles.
Major James Mitchell, commanding Company E through the Autumn Campaign across France, observes that German tactical responses consistently failed to offset American firepower advantages. The Germans tried concentrating their machine guns and giving their squad leaders submachine guns, but this doesn't solve their basic problem. Their riflemen with bolt-action weapons simply cannot match our rate of fire. When we engage, our rifle squads put out more lead per minute than German rifle platoons. Their automatic weapons provide local superiority, but we maneuver against those positions using fire from our Garands to suppress while we advance. German infantry that used to be able to hold defensive positions through disciplined rifle fire now get overwhelmed by our firepower before they can establish effective defensive patterns. The American infantry tactics that evolved to fully exploit M1 capabilities emphasize aggressive, rapid advances supported by overwhelming rifle fire. The 30th Infantry Division, operating throughout the Normandy breakout and pursuit across France, develops techniques that become standard across U.S. forces. Squads advance in bounds, with half the men firing continuously while the other half moves, creating sustained suppressive fire that prevents German defenders from engaging effectively. The doctrine explicitly instructs soldiers to use M1 firepower liberally, firing at suspected enemy positions even without confirmed targets, creating psychological pressure through sheer volume of fire that causes German infantry to remain in cover rather than risking exposure to aim and fire. Staff Sergeant William Harrison, whose squad's performance at Mortain exemplified effective M1 employment, continues leading his men through subsequent engagements, where the tactical advantages of semi-automatic rifles prove consistently decisive. In an engagement near St. Lo on August 19th, Harrison's squad encounters a German strongpoint defended by 20 infantry with machine gun support. Following doctrine, Harrison's men immediately opened fire with their M1 Garands, 12 rifles delivering approximately 480 rounds per minute while maneuvering to flank positions. The German defenders, attempting to return fire, find themselves unable to maintain effective defensive fire against the American rifle volume. Harrison's squad destroys the position in 11 minutes, killing 8 Germans and capturing 12, while suffering 1 man lightly wounded.
The comparative ammunition expenditure statistics compiled by American ordnance officers reveal the quantitative reality of M1 employment. American rifle companies in Normandy averaged 12,000 rounds of 30-06 ammunition expended per day of heavy combat, compared to German rifle companies averaging 3,500 rounds of 7.92mm Mauser ammunition. This 4-to-1 difference in ammunition consumption directly reflects the M1 semi-automatic capability, enabling sustained fire rates impossible with bolt-action rifles. American logistics, designed to support this ammunition consumption, routinely deliver sufficient 30-06 supplies to maintain maximum fire rates, while German logistics increasingly struggle to provide adequate ammunition even for their lower consumption rates. The technical attempts by Germany to develop and field semi-automatic rifles comparable to the M1 demonstrate recognition of the weapon's significance, but also reveal the impossibility of matching American capabilities given Germany's deteriorating industrial situation. The Gewehr 43 semi-automatic rifle, entering limited production in 1943, provides German infantry a weapon theoretically comparable to the M1, firing the 7.92mm Mauser cartridge from a 10-round detachable magazine with semi-automatic action. But production difficulties, raw material shortages, and priority given to other weapon systems mean that total Gewehr 43 production through 1945 reaches only approximately 400,000 rifles, insufficient to equip even a significant fraction of German infantry when over 8 million American M1 Garands were produced during the war. The human stories behind M1 employment reveal both the weapon's tactical effectiveness and the courage required to employ it successfully under combat conditions. Private First Class Robert Johnson, Harrison's best marksman, who achieved 3 kills in 8 seconds during the Mortain engagement, accumulates a combat record through the autumn of 1944 that includes 17 confirmed German soldiers killed in rifle engagements, achieved through combination of superior marksmanship and the M1's rapid-fire capability. Johnson describes his approach in a letter home. "The Garand lets me engage multiple targets in seconds. When Germans appear, I fire at the first one, observe impact, shift to the second target, fire again, all in the time it would take a soldier with a bolt-action rifle to cycle his action for a second shot. The semi-automatic action means I'm always ready to fire, always able to engage threats as they appear, giving me advantages that are literally life or death." The maintenance and reliability of M1 rifles under combat conditions proves as significant as their firepower advantages, with the weapon demonstrating remarkable durability despite exposure to mud, water, and rough handling that would disable less robust designs. Technical Sergeant Michael O'Connor, serving as Company E's armorer, maintains the company's M1 inventory through months of continuous operations, finding that the gas-operated system requires regular cleaning but proves remarkably resistant to failure. O'Connor's maintenance logs record that of 147 M1 Garands in company inventory between June and December 1944, only 3 required replacement due to mechanical failure that couldn't be repaired at company level, a 98% reliability rate that validates the weapon's design and manufacturing quality.
The German intelligence assessments of American infantry capabilities, compiled from prisoner interrogations, captured equipment, and combat observations, provide grudging acknowledgement that the M1 Garand represents significant American advantages in individual soldier armament. A Wehrmacht intelligence summary from September 1944 states, American infantry are universally armed with semi-automatic M1 rifles, providing firepower advantages of 3 to 4 times equivalent German infantry with bolt-action weapons. The weapon's 8-round capacity, reliable semi-automatic action, and robust construction enable sustained fire rates that suppress German defensive positions and enable aggressive American infantry tactics. German infantry report that engaging American riflemen at ranges under 300 meters results in prohibitive casualties due to American fire superiority. The weapon represents significant American industrial and design advantages that German production cannot match under current circumstances. The broader tactical implications of M1 superiority extend beyond direct combat exchanges to influence operational planning and strategic assessments on both sides. American commanders, confident that their infantry can achieve fire superiority against equivalent or even superior German numbers, plan operations that emphasize aggressive infantry advances supported by artillery and armor, but not requiring overwhelming numerical superiority. German commanders, recognizing that their infantry suffered decisive disadvantages in rifle firepower, increasingly rely on prepared defensive positions, automatic weapons concentration, and artillery support to offset American advantages, adaptations that work in some circumstances but cannot systematically counter well-employed M1-equipped infantry. The statistical record of infantry engagements throughout the Northwest Europe campaign provides quantitative validation of M1 effectiveness. American infantry companies averaging 120 riflemen equipped with M1 Garands consistently defeat German infantry companies of equivalent or greater size in engagements where terrain and circumstances allow infantry weapons to determine outcomes. The casualty exchange ratios, averaging 1.8 German casualties per American casualty in infantry engagements, reflect the decisive advantages semi-automatic rifles provide in combat where fire superiority enables tactical success. The post-war assessments by military historians and weapons analysts uniformly credit the M1 Garand as among the most significant infantry weapons innovations of World War II. General George S. Patton's famous description of the M1 as the greatest battle implement ever devised reflects professional military recognition that the weapon fundamentally changed infantry combat capabilities. The technical achievement, designing and mass-producing a reliable semi-automatic rifle when most nations considered semi-automatics too complex for general issue, demonstrates American engineering excellence and industrial capacity operating at peak effectiveness. The German veterans who survived facing M1-equipped American infantry carry memories that shape their understanding of why Germany lost the war. In a 1970s interview, former Obergefreiter Hans Müller describes his perspective. "We were trained to believe that German infantry, with our discipline and marksmanship, were superior to any opponents. The Americans, with their M1 Garands, taught us otherwise. They could fire faster, deliver more rounds accurately, and maintain fire volumes that made effective response impossible. This was not about courage or training.
It was about having weapons that gave them decisive advantages we couldn't counter with our equipment. When every American rifleman could outshoot an entire German squad, tactics and training meant little. The influence of M1 Garand's success on post-war infantry weapons development proves profound and long-lasting, establishing semi-automatic and eventually fully automatic fire as standard for military rifles. The M14, M16, and subsequent American infantry rifles traced direct lineage to principles the M1 validated, that individual soldiers equipped with rapid-fire weapons achieve greater combat effectiveness than larger numbers armed with slower-firing weapons. The concept that firepower at the individual soldier level determines infantry combat outcomes, demonstrated definitively by M1 performance in World War II, becomes foundational to modern infantry doctrine across all advanced militaries. The final accounting of M1 Garand contributions to Allied victory encompasses both measurable combat achievements and intangible advantages that resist statistical measurement. The weapon enabled American infantry to achieve tactical successes with smaller numbers than traditional doctrine suggested necessary, allowing concentration of forces for breakthrough operations rather than distributing strength across broad fronts. The psychological impact on German infantry, knowing they faced firepower disadvantages in every engagement, contributed to erosion of combat effectiveness that compounded Germany's deteriorating strategic situation. And the validation that American industrial and engineering excellence could produce superior weapons in quantity established confidence that influenced every aspect of American military operations.